We would invite all who would care to join us in the standing of the recitation of the Lord's Prayer, followed by a moment of silence. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
It was so quiet, I didn't know anybody was in here.
It is now 7 o'clock. Shelby City Council meeting is called to order. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call please, Mr. Crum.
Mr. Robb. Here. Mr. Roberts. Here. Mr. Gates. Here. Mr. Martin.
Here.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Here.
I will now entertain a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal from February 22nd, 2022.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Martin to dispense with the reading of the journal from February 22nd, 2022. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Martin.
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Robb.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay. That motion passes. Now comes the time for public comment. If anyone has any public comment for City Council this evening, then come to the podium, state your business, or any public comment received by council members to share in this time frame, we could share that. We have no public comment in that genre. If it would please council, I think we could bring together my proclamation and also introduce some special guests here this evening with us. We have Mr. Troy Smith. He's the manager of community education and special projects, Richland County Board of Development of Disabilities, Richland New Hope. That is one long title.
Yeah.
Two or three lines on it.
Everybody, when you say New Hope, people know, but the technical county government term is
Yes.
County Board of DD.
We all know him as Troy Smith from New Hope.
There you go. That will do.
about Richland County.
Thanks, Mayor Chair.
We're going to share a little something because we're going to talk about a little while later here about a bowling event, which is this is the second annual.
Yep.
We were, of course, cut out by COVID last March, but this is an opportunity for the community schools to come together and just having a great time with a lot of young people. And I was there doing some bowling and had a good time. I'm glad they put the bumpers up. That was a real blessing for everybody. Improved my score. But so there's a little bit of a clip, and you'll recognize some students and public officials that are in this little clip of the bowling day. Proclamation, Troy, while you're here, and then I'm sure you have some words to say in the presentation yourself. So this is a proclamation for Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, March of 2022. Whereas the more than 1,500 individuals served by Richland New Hope, their families, friends, neighbors, and co-workers encourage everyone to value and respect the abilities of all people And whereas the most effective way to increase awareness is through participation in community activities and the openness to learn and acknowledge each individual's contributions. And whereas policies must be developed, attitudes shaped, and opportunities offered that allow citizens with developmental disabilities to live as independently and productively as possible in our community. And whereas we encourage all citizens to foster and support such opportunities that include full access to education, housing, employment, and recreational activities. Now therefore I, Stephen L. Shagg, Mayor of the City of Shelby, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2022 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, and offer full support to efforts that assist people with disabilities to make choices that enable them to live successful lives and realize their potential. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of Shelby, Ohio to be affixed this 7th day of March in the year of our Lord, 2022. So Troy, if you want to come up here as young as you can and bring your guest with you.
This is Miss Teresa Dan Miller.
If it please the council, just come right on here with the council. First name again is
This is Teresa Dan Miller.
Teresa.
She's a resident here in Shelby. This is our lovely mother, Susan, back here.
Yes, Susan.
So she,
Council members, would you join me maybe right around here with Teresa? We want to. Thank you so much for being with us, Teresa. What a blessing that is. So we're going to have our council members come out and we'll get a little picture. How's that sound? Okay? So maybe we'll face this way, Teresa. Come right around here. We'll face out there, face towards your mama. And we'll twirl right here. Okay. And we can, everybody kind of gather around. Don't be too shy. Don't throw them. All right. Okay. All right, Mr. Thanks.
say Teresa.
Teresa.
Thank you.
Very nice. Very nice.
Very good. Good? You smell nice?
We got her.
We just want to thank you guys, Shelby, just to support a lot of individuals that we serve, live here in Shelby. We appreciate your support. See my shirt, we just had Special Olympics State Swimming up at Bowling Green. We had a great time up there, and Special Olympics full force since it took off last year due to obvious reasons. But Teresa played, I know you play basketball. What else do you play?
Bowling.
And bowling. Excellent. So we'll be getting back to that. Do you have anything that you'd like to say to council or Mayor Shagg?
Thank you for supporting us in a new hope.
Very nice. Thank you very much. We'll put this up in my office, Teresa, so if you come by City Hall sometime, we'll have this hanging there. You can come and see it, okay? Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you, Ms. Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Troy.
Thank you guys.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
everyone.
Thank you. I'll move forward then with reports from standing special committees, and we will be adding the safety committee meeting, if that would please council. That was inadvertently left off here this evening. Mr. Roberts would sure like to share his report this evening, so if it please council, we'll add that committee report, all right? So, but the Community and Economic Development Committee did not meet. That's correct, Mr. McLaughlin?
Right.
Okay, so let's move on forward then to Public Works and General Operations Committee. Councilman Rollins.
Public Works and General Operations Committee met on the 22nd. Didn't conduct any business due to a lack of quorum, but Mr. Geis did share some things that are on the horizon or things that he's working on, and one of those to start with is currently working on the 2022 paving program, trying to get that together so we get that going. Commented that the new software that they have that coordinates the health department along with his office is working rather well, and they're getting along good with that. Continuing to work on the Blackport Commons project. moving forward with that. We had some discussion about retention ponds and subdivisions due to the requirements now for those. That kind of falls on the developer, but what do we do when the developer is no longer here? So he's looking into some options there, and maybe some changes in the zoning laws to take care of that. And also working on an issue that we see all over town here this last winter, and actually every winter, and that's sump pump outlets, and coming up with some regulations for how to deal with those in new developments so we don't have those issues there. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rob. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Rob in regard to his report? Hearing none, we'll move forward to the Safety Committee meeting, and Councilman Roberts.
Thanks, sir. We met on March 2nd. In Fire News, Chief Thompson reported that Captain Bob Dean would be retiring as of March 13th. Two new firefighters, one Tim Sentner has already been sworn in, and so we also have Andrew Robinson, who will be coming on very soon, and this will see Shelby Fire at full staff for, it's been a while, and Lord knows how long it'll be, you know, I mean, it's not very long sometimes, but that we have a full staff. So tonight is Resolution 9. We would like to, Chief would like to apply for a training and equipment grant, which is a seatbelt grant. You know, we get a little bit, it seems like every year for that, and it just goes to equip the fire department. Health news, we learned that there right now are 5 nuisances. 3 of them have been sent to the prosecutor, and we'll soon learn whether we get a mosquito grant. Typically, every year we get a mosquito grant. You know, it just depends on how much it is, but it's, you know, it really helps us out with our monitoring of the nasty stuff that mosquitoes can do to us. And in police news, sergeant's test will be given on March 11th, and the interview portion of that test will be held on March 18th. And there were 7 eligible candidates, and only 2 signed up to take the test. And lastly, a full jail inspection will take place later this year. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you.
Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Roberts in regard to his report? Now we'll move forward then to Committee of the Whole meeting. Councilman McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Committee of the Whole did meet on the 3rd of March for approximately 3.5 hours. We discussed Part 2 of the appropriations budget for 2022. At that meeting, we ironed out what we're going to do for the police department, fire department, and health department's budget. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. McLaughlin in regard to his report? If not, we'll move forward then to reports of city officials. Since our last meeting, I've been occupied with typical day-to-day mayoral duties. February the 24th, Mr. Geis, Ms. Gribben, Mr. Cody Albert, and myself, we attended a Richland County Commissioners meeting where we presented our request for $500,000 of ARPA funding to fill an inflationary-driven funding gap as we prepare to bid out for a second time our Black Fork Commons project in downtown Shelby. Hopefully we will learn of the Commissioner's response at their meeting scheduled for this coming Thursday morning. February 25th, I had the privilege to swear in Mr. Tim Center as our newest member of the Shelby Fire Department. March 1st, participated via Zoom in the monthly meeting of the Richland County Development Group. On March the 1st, I met with our Shelby Board of Health staff and was joined by our consultant, Ms. Lauren Yeagle, as we continue to press towards the accreditation finalization of our documentation. And then on March the 2nd, as seen here on the screen, I had a great time with the volunteers and fellow elected officials, the staffing of New Hope at the bowling event at Lex Lanes. So that is my report. Are there any comments or questions from me in regard to my report? Hearing none, we'll turn the page and move to Mr. Crum, Director of Finance.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, as Councilman McLaughlin spoke, the vast majority of my last few weeks was spent finishing up appropriations. Once again, thank you to everyone who was so helpful in gathering those numbers so that we could get that done. It meant a lot to me. Really, the only other things that are really going on out of the ordinary, we have a series of small little reports that are due the end of February for last year. There's a few for the health department, and just a few other ones that I finished up and got submitted timely. So that was pretty much my last few weeks. Nothing really out of the ordinary. That's my report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Crum. Are there any comments or questions from Mr. Crum in regard to his report? Hearing none, move forward to Mr. Ister, Finance Director. I'm sorry, Law Director. Yeah, you want to switch places.
Got appropriation done. No report, Mayor, routine business, so.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Ister? Move forward to Mr. Joe Geis, Project Coordinator.
Thank you, Mayor. We are finishing up our lead service line project. Per the documents, what they'll do is next, once they get them all complete, they're gonna go back and clean the mess up and put concrete in. Asphalt's not available, we can't leave that mess down there. And then eventually, when it's all done, we'll just mill everything off and put a new surface on everything. When the streetscape project, everything's done, I think it look a lot nicer now, so. Like Councilmember Rob said, the paving program, I got the final items from our engineer for the curb ramps and so forth, so I can plug those in and get that hopefully put out here to bid very soon. And the downtown streetscape project was set to start March 14th. Then we'll start on the west side square and then the east side square, and then probably some in the middle, doing some things around Blackboard Commons. So they will continue through November. April, I'm sorry, that's the April.
Thank you, Mr. Geis. Are there any comments or questions from Mr. Geis in regard to his report? All right. Let's move forward to new business. Is there any new business to be brought before council this evening? Mr. Martin.
I believe that there is a new edition of the Robert's Rules of Order. Actually, I think we're two new editions beyond what we have, I believe. But I know that the city has always gotten those for council members and given them to us. So we probably need to look into that as a city and get those to council members.
We'll be happy to do that. Mr. Gates.
I believe we'll need to change our rules. I think our rules of council specify the 11th edition. And I stumbled across the 12th edition the other day in the bookstore. So.
All right. Well, we'll certainly look into both.
Yes, here we are. Oh, no, excuse me. The Rule 19, Parliamentary Authority. The rules contained in the current version of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, shall govern meetings of the council and its committees, So it doesn't specify a particular edition, it just says the current edition, which of course is the 12th edition. I would ask the clerk then to get as many copies as are needed.
Sure. Thank you. Any other new business? I look forward to unfinished business, future use of the Main Street Fire Station. There is no movement on that. The ice plant property, we've just begun some discussion among the administrative officials of how to move forward with that here. So as that develops, we'll keep you updated. Any questions in regard to those two items? Mr. Gates.
Well, legislation will need to be enacted whether it's sold or leased, whether we go through the CIC or whether we put it out for public bid.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, is there any other unfinished business? If not, then let's move forward to legislation.
Resolution number 9, 2022, authorizing the mayor as Director of Public Safety of the City of Shelby to apply for the 2022-2023 training and equipment grant for the purchase of EMS supplies and declaring an emergency.
Move the resolution be taken up.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Martin for the passage of resolution number 9, 2022. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts? Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Resolution number 9, 2022 passes.
Resolution number 10, 2022, authorizing the mayor as Director of Public Safety to enter into contract change order with Vasu Communications, Inc. for the purchase of E.F. Johnson mobile and portable radios in the amount of $9,840 and $840.11 as an increase and declaring an emergency.
Move the resolution be taken passed. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Roberts for the passage of resolution number 10, 2022. Discussion? Mr. Gates.
Mayor, the police chief is here. I don't know if he wishes to comment or whether the legislation is self-explanatory.
I think Chief can say that before.
It is self-explanatory. I did mention at Safety Committee that shortly after we made our arrangements to make the purchase of those radios, that Vasu notified me shortly thereafter that those radios were no longer available. There was supposed to be a tri-band option, but it is not released until June, so they have provided us with another option that will get us the radios sooner, and that's what you have to do. It's an increase in almost $10,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin? Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts? Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Resolution number 10, 2022 passes.
Resolution number 11, 2022, authorizing the mayor as Director of Public Service to enter into contract change order with Kelston, Inc. for the lead service line project in the amount of $15,991.74 as an increase and declaring an emergency.
Move the resolution taken and passed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Martin and a second by Mr. Gates for the passage of resolution number 11, 2022. Discussion? Mr. Gates.
I can go through this real quick if you'd like. You look at the change order document. When they dug down and found, I'll give you for instance, in front of City Hall, there was 3 old galvanized lines that our best guess is that went to houses back behind the City Hall building that were still tapped on the main and just shut off with an old shut off and buried underneath. Found a lot of those, stuff like that. So that's what all those extra stainless steel clamps. So basically what they had to do is we'll have a clamp around the main, unscrew the old tap that's in there, and water's going all over, and they slide it over and tighten it down real quick. So that way, those things aren't there anymore. They're not there to leak. They're totally gone. Some of them were lead, so we need to get rid of them anyhow. So that was a big portion of this change order. Some of the services they dug down, found that it wasn't lead, so we just need something to pay them just to backfill. So that's the next one. 58 West Main, when we did the survey of the buildings, we could not get into that building for whatever reason, so there really wasn't much we could put on the contract documents, but then we were able to get into it afterwards, so that's the change on that. And then 52 West Main, we went from 3/4 to 1.5 inches. And then 19, number 19, they're paid in 19 as the city supplied a couple clamps and they installed them, so that's the totals.
Mr. Rob.
Since they moved to the other end of the street, is this the last change order?
I have no idea. I'm hoping, actually, I think talking with our engineer, I think we may have a negative change order once we're all said and done, which is always good, but that, well, who knows what lies underneath the ground? Yeah.
Any further discussion?
You know, as change orders go, it's, you know, the original contract was pushing $268,000, and this is for 16. So, you know, we'd like for all the change orders to be negative, I get that, but, you know, and again, as Mr. Guy says, you know, as soon as you start to open up the ground, you have no idea what you're gonna find.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin? Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yeah.
Resolution number 11, 2022 passes.
Resolution number 12, 2022, approving and adopting the Black Fork Commons written justification statement for funding from the Richland County Board of Commissioners through the American Rescue Plan and declaring an emergency.
For the resolution taken to pass.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Martin and a second by Mr. Roberts for the passage of resolution number 12, 2022. Discussion? Mr. Geis.
We're working with the county administrator, Mr. Keller. It was, there was guidance from the Federal Treasury Department on things that are needed to apply for funding through ARPA. And this is one of those, is a written justification statement and a detailed out on a form that was given. I'll give Mrs. Grimm full credit. She wrote this, and I think she did a very fine job. But addressed all those needs. It's already been reviewed by the county, and they're happy with it and so forth. So this will be forwarded to them tomorrow after, if council passes and the mayor signs it, I suppose. And we are planning to meet them on the county on Thursday to see where we're at.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin? Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yeah.
Resolution number 12, 2022 passes. Now, for the miscellaneous business, is there any miscellaneous business to be brought before council this evening? Mr. Geis.
As we discussed in the appropriations meeting, if council would so desire, we will have the, a document, and I can get with Mr. Eister on resolutions for, there's a subrecipient agreement that the city will need to pass by resolution, and we will have everything ready to go out for bids too. So if council so chooses, maybe a recess till Friday, if possible.
And for Mr. Gates.
Mayor, I move that council recess until 3:30 p.m. on the 11th, Friday, this coming Friday.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Martin that council recess until March the 11th, this Friday at 3:30 p.m. I would imagine meeting here in council chambers at the Justice Center. Any further any discussion on this motion to recess? Roll call, please.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yeah.
Council recesses at 7:28. Thank you, gentlemen.
I'm almost, the last 4 weeks.